Transitions. We are in a time of transition. And transitions are an important feature in the Bible. Because often those transitions also go with blessings. Blessings that are given, blessings that are pronounced, blessings perhaps even that are experienced in the moment. Think for a minute, maybe going back to Sunday school lessons, think of the stories of the patriarchs found in Genesis. And as they are dying, they gather the family around, they pass blessings on to those who come. The blessing of the patriarch in the stories in Genesis is a precious thing. They long to hear those parting words from that beloved person. In fact, sometimes the offspring sort of vie for the special blessing. We have the story, of course, of Jacob and Esau, in which Jacob pretends to be Esau so that he will receive the blessing. Blessings, final partings. There's the story, of course, of Moses at the edge of the promised land, overlooking this broad valley that the people of Israel will cross the Jordan to go in and occupy. But he's not going to go. He will not cross over. And so he gathers everybody together. One last big speech from Moses, which is basically the book of Deuteronomy. He wants them to remember who they are, what they're called to be, and the type of community they're supposed to create. But he says, I am putting before you today life and death, blessing and curse. Choose life, therefore. Choose life, that your lives may be full, that you may indeed experience blessing in this place. His final words to them. Elijah, a few hundred years later, is ready to end his career of being a prophet and advocating for the worship of one God, not multiple gods, and of keeping the people of Israel and Judah worshiping the God that Moses had told them about. He's coming to the end of that, and so he goes down again to the Jordan to be taken up by God in that fire story of the fiery chariot that comes to take him away. And Elisha, his assistant, comes with him. And Elijah literally passes the mantle on to Elisha as a blessing. To receive, in fact, a double portion of Elijah's spirit. That final blessing. And then Jesus. There's several sort of partings in many ways in the Gospels. Jesus has his final supper where he instructs his disciples. He tries, this is the one last time that I'm going to, you can almost hear it in his tone. I'm going to try to get this through your thick skulls one last time, okay? But it's so filled with love because he knows what it means to be human and how they have struggled to understand his words and his path, his way. And so he gathers them for a meal that he has loved having with them so many times. And so he knows, there's nothing that brings people together like a meal, right? And so that's what he does with his disciples. He brings them together, they have a meal. He tells them, I'm going, but I'm preparing places for you all and for others, for the world. But I will not leave you, because I'm going to send the Spirit, who will be with all of you. The Spirit of truth will come. And this is what I want you to do. To remember me, I want you to love one another. Because when you love one another, you will be experiencing me. You will be experiencing God. These are the parting blessings that Jesus leaves his followers. And then finally, after his death and then his resurrection, he is with them for 40 days. And before he departs, he gathers his disciples again up on the mountainside. And he says, go out, make disciples of all peoples, everywhere. Teach them what I have taught you. Live that path with them. And then he departs. His final words, I'm with you always. These amazing stories. So leave-taking. We've had about 6 months to move through this process of preparing to leave, this time of transition, and the time is now upon us. Like it or not, it's here, it's coming. Ready or not, and yes, we are not ready. But packing will go on. It's a time of grieving and a time of anticipation. Often conflicting feelings. Often both at the same time. It's a time of shifting relationships. As I leave, it is important for you now to look to a new person as your pastoral leader. And this shift in relationship is important and it's necessary. Each one of us comes with particular gifts and abilities and skills. Scott Allen, who will be following me, has particular gifts and abilities for ministry, many of which are different from mine. You may be tempted from time to time to compare us. That's only natural, it's human, but I would ask that you strive to refrain from making these comparisons. Instead, please receive Scott with the same open arms and open hearts with which you received me when I first came. God has richly blessed us in our time together. And God will continue to richly bless you under the capable leadership and loving care that Scott will offer. There are some protocols of the United Methodist system. I've written about this, but it's important to reiterate them from up here. That United Methodist ministers are forbidden for 1 year following their appointment to maintain any pastoral relationship with their former charge. This includes marriages, funerals, counseling, or offering advice on the internal affairs of the congregation. You'll have a new pastor who will look after you all, who will allow for leadership. And these protocols that we have in the United Methodist Church are designed to provide the conditions whereby you will begin to forge together those beautifully heartfelt and deep bonds of trust, love, and grace that are the hallmark of true Christian community. Some things are not going to change. There is a task set before you that remains: to love God and love your neighbors. Jesus says, go make disciples. Teach them everything I've commanded you. I am with you. That's really the mandate and the charter for the church. There's no other purpose for the church. This is our entire and sole reason for being, is to go out into the world. That's where we're sent. To live the path and emulate the way of Jesus. For the world to see that we don't have to live in fear or hatred of one another. That truth is the only foundation worth building upon. That justice and mercy are the very characteristics of God that the world needs most. And that love is at the center of everything. And love wins. That's your task. That's your message. That has not changed for 2,000 years. It's not going to change for 2,000 more. And the world really needs to hear it. We all have our work cut out for us. Not just the work of one or two hired workers. It's the work of everybody. You are all disciple makers, not the clergy. Clergy are here to guide, to teach, to counsel, encourage, admonish, but the work belongs to all of us. All of us. We're all starting a new chapter now. But the plot line of the book remains the same. Make disciples for the transformation of the world. This is our mission and our mandate. To love the world as God so dearly loves it. And pours himself out to save it. So, I know and I give thanks for many of the blessings that I have received from you all. You have trusted me, which has helped me to continue to grow in my ministry. You think after a few years you've learned it all. You keep learning, don't you? And I have continued to grow in my ministry, even here. You have accepted and revealed and received with openness what I have to offer in way of skills and education. You have put up with my humor, for the most part. I've had the opportunity to do various things and outside of this church, and you did not think that it distracted from my ministry. You accepted my interest in exploring the path of Jesus as an entire way of life. And we've journeyed together in exploring what this might mean. You keep trying to find ways of living out the message of the Christian faith, which has continually spurred me on to find new ways to make the good news of Jesus Christ relevant to our daily lives, including working on a book that has finally been published. You've come to classes I've taught. You've encouraged me to continue teaching. And you have loved me and my family in whatever guise it has presented itself. You have opened your hearts to Susan and have accepted her just as she is, and accepted what she has to offer as a person, with no set of expectations placed upon her. This has been liberating to her and to me as well. And that is a great gift. So these are the blessings I wish to leave you, with you, in fulfilling this mission and calling that we all have. I pray for you that God will enrich your fellowship with new life and energy, and that the boundaries of your ministry will expand into new territories. I pray for you that God will help provide you with the resources to achieve your dreams and to expand your ministry. I pray for you that you will not be satisfied with the way that things have been, but that God will place in your hearts a holy dissatisfaction with the status quo and a holy hunger for fresh directions and creative ways to make God's love real in our communities and our world. And I pray for you the fullest measure of grace and love and peace and mercy and joy that God can possibly pour out upon each and every one of you. May you go each day with God. May God go with you down whatever darkened path or harrowed hallway may be before you. May God's light shine into the darkest corners of despair or anxiety. And may you know that you are never, never, never alone. And that whatever may arise, it is not God that punishes you, but who is instead by your side, carrying you, giving you strength, believing in you. And when that time comes for you to pass from this life into the next, that God stands always ready to receive you into his eternal presence. God is love, truth, and justice, and these will always prevail in the end and in the final accounting. So let these things guide you. For they're from God, and because they endure, so will you. So finally, do all the good you can, by all the means you can, in all the ways you can, in all the places you can, at all the times you can, to all the people you can, as long as ever you can. We love you forever.